Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, into another YouTube live show tonight. I am John Kurtz. I tell you what, this is the first day, maybe of the entire off season, where it's at least the worst day, the worst offender for me in terms of feeling like, dude, we need a season to get here, and we need a season to get here fast. Uh, it's kind of slow. It's been a slow week. Now, look, Matt Campbell locked up long term at Iowa State. I have some definite thoughts about that. I have some thoughts about another Big 12 coach and how I think it ties into the worst Big 12 take that I consistently see out there. A fan really cornered the Big 10, which I absolutely loved, held the Big 10's feet to the fire better than almost anybody that I've seen so far. So I'm looking forward to talking about all that with you guys. I'm not as much looking forward to the lead topic because I think it's detrimental to college football. I'm not saying there aren't things to talk about, and my job as a content creator is to bring you good content. But it is one of those times where I was like, dude, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit here because we all just need a season. We all just need a season. And thankfully, this does mean that we don't have like a major breaking conference realignment story because last few years, excuse me, that has been really present as we were heading like into the season. And that is not there, which I think is probably a good thing. Yeah, we've got the ACC drama playing out a little bit, but we don't have anything as major as, well, what was going on with the ACC with tangible lawsuits a year ago, for instance. So, man, it's August 3rd. We've got 20 days, 2-0, count them, until the college football season kicks off with K-State and Iowa State and Ireland. Just get me there. Just get me there to that game. I trust and assume that most of you guys are feeling the same way, as we are getting very, very close, but yet so far away. That's, I guess, a more eloquent way to say this than what I just said there to begin the show. This is the most we are so close, but so far away that I've felt yet to the college football season, this entire offseason. So hopefully, as my job is to make that seem a little less intense for you, make it feel a little bit better, hopefully I will do that on the show tonight. One thing I can tell you, the anonymous Big 12 player survey, which rolls on, one more week left of the anonymous Big 12 player survey in the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. I would highly encourage that you get signed up for that at ofbnews.com. That is ofbnews.com to do that. You're going to get the anonymous Big 12 player survey in your email twice this week, and the best one is still yet to come, which, of course, is the one that I've been teasing for a little while now. Asking the players what is the craziest, wildest thing somebody has tried to do to get them to transfer to their school. I got a couple answers that were equal parts hilarious and shocking, that were just great. So make sure you're signed up. Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com. Dangerously close to 5,000 subscribers. In fact, let me go check here real quick. See if we got there since the last time I checked. No, we need three more subs, guys. 3 more to get me to 5,000. Appreciate all of you who have subscribed so far, and let's see if we can get over the hump. Okay. You can also click the link in the description of this video, but it's very easy. ofbnews.com. ofbnews.com to get subscribed there. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as you roll in tonight. Appreciate that. My apologies. My voice seemingly a little bit hoarse. I feel like I'm coughing stuff up today. I'm gutting it out for all of you. Okay. I'm trying, but thank you for being here. Those of you who are, and for bearing with me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep the comments coming in the chat. And then if you want to guarantee your question or comment makes it on the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box. That is how you do that. Appreciate all of you who leave super chats that way. And if you want to be a part of the show and you're not watching live, you can hit me up on Venmo as well. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo to do that. You leave a question or comment there, and I will take care of it to kick off the next show. So you can stay connected to the show, still be a part of it, even if you are not watching live. Okay. With that, look, I am perhaps a bit late to this story. I didn't really pay attention to it initially when I saw this come out about a week ago. But I was reading some discourse about this as I was prepping for the show today, and I got to admit, it made me kind of sick. It made me kind of sick to read about this. So look, college football is doing a lot of dumb stuff right now, but maybe the dumbest, at least the most frustrating thing, the most frustrating way to rip the soul out of the sport has come to the forefront this week. And I have to admit, even the Big 12 is guilty of this. All right. So I also will have to acknowledge up front that this, if you've been following me for a long time, if you can remember what I have had to say about the Ireland game, K-State and Iowa State, if you can remember what I've had to say about Big 12, Mexico, Kansas, Houston, you're going to look at this and be like, dude, this is the most hypocritical take you've had. And you know what? That's fine. I would subscribe to the theory that we all get to grow and evolve with more information presented. And also, this one is complicated because I understand the position that the Big 12 is in, and everybody, for that matter, but especially conferences that are not the Big 10 or the SEC. But if you haven't figured this out yet, I'm going to be talking about this headline that popped up here. Okay. Did you guys see this headline? Maybe an easy one to miss. The University of Michigan football program is engaged in ongoing discussions to kick off the 2026 season on foreign soil, playing host to Western Michigan at Deutsche Bank Park in Frankfurt, Germany on Saturday, August 29th. Non-conference matchup would be the first game played by the Wolverines outside of North America. Well, there's a freaking reason for that. Okay. There is a reason that this will be the first game to kick off outside of North America for the Michigan Wolverines, a storied college football program. And that is because college football is not meant to be played overseas. Okay. Why? I feel exasperated talking about this. Also, what are we doing? Like both schools releasing a coordinated statement saying that they're just engaged in ongoing discussions to kick off the 2026 season on foreign soil. Was this to be a trial balloon on this? Because if it is, let me climb up on somebody's shoulders and pop that balloon. Like, take the trial balloon, throw it in a volcano. Please, 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 please. This one really hit me because it's like, all right, I understand we've been doing the week 0 Ireland thing. I understand that my school is playing in that right now. But it feels like a different step if we're now going to have individual schools taking their non-conference games against directional schools and doing that. Because I don't know, that feels like a more sacrilege sort of step to me. And I get it, K-State, Iowa State's a conference game. It's taking away a K-State home game. Lots of things that are kind of terrible about it. But it just feels like we're now opening the floodgates on this deal instead of it being a special one-off week 0 thing. Now we're going to start doing it for games like this. Dude, I do not like it. I do not like it at all. Because, look, we can all understand why they're doing this, right? I mean, it's trying to build an international audience. And, like, from a business perspective, I guess I'm sure in general this does make some sense. More fans out there, more potential fans. What does it all mean? It all means it's another way to look for dollars. It's another way to look for dollar signs eventually and pull in more money. International audiences are untapped if you can't go get more fans here. But guys, the whole point of college football, and I know that not everybody that's a fan of Michigan football attended the University of Michigan, but this all is built around the idea of, like, you're rooting for your school. You're rooting for your school. Why do we take that international? Like, what? It is so stupid that this is where we're at in college football. These campuses are 100 miles away from each other. They are 100 miles away from each other, and they're going to go to Germany to play this game. I'm sure it's a really nice payday for Western Michigan. Michigan is trying to build up an international audience as this big brand that would potentially stand. It would stand to reason. You believe that they could build one up more so than a lot of other college football places. But let's call it what it is. All of these. And again, my school is guilty of it too. It's a cash grab. It's a cash grab. Now, for Michigan, maybe more of a long-term cash grab. For Western Michigan, a short-term cash grab. But the sport is just in a place where everybody feels so much pressure to get more money in the revenue sharing era that they're going after cash grabs like this that continue to just rip the soul out of the sport. Totally rip the soul out of the sport. Now, call me a hypocrite all you want. Not only because my school is playing in Ireland, but when that came out, I mostly defended the move, but I will say I basically defended it with the same thing I'm going to say now. If you are a school like K-State or Iowa State and somebody's throwing a couple extra $1 million at you to go play a week 0 game where the entire country is going to be watching you and you get the national spotlight, those are two things that are commodities that are desperately needed if you're a school in the Big 12. And if you are K-State or Iowa State, you get extra money and extra spotlight that you wouldn't otherwise get for that game. I mean, if you play K-State, Iowa State in week 10, week 11, how many people are going to be talking about that all week long? Not many. You play it in week 0, how many people are going to be talking about that all week long? A hell of a lot more. Okay? So those are two big-time commodities. Now, the Big Ten and the SEC, they don't need that near as much, but we're still seeing them now try to go down this road of playing the international games. You can also say, hey, John, I listened to you talk about the KU Houston basketball game in Mexico. And when you were talking about that, you seem to be pretty complimentary of it. Hey, you have Houston, you have BYU, you have Arizona and Arizona State, all of which do have somewhat of a fan base in Mexico. Push that way, broaden your horizons, try and pull in new audiences, all that seems kind of smart. And that definitely was my take at the time. And I guess in a lot of ways, I have to really stick to that. Like, I don't think from a pure business operation standpoint, it's bad business. I don't think that it's, I think it's something you have to do if you're the Big 12. Yeah, the Big 12 has to be a disruptor. We hear them say that all the time. Brett Yormark will say that. Tyrell Kirkham, the great chief marketing officer that the Big 12 has, they will say you've got to be a disruptor. You got to do things like that. You got to do things differently. This can't be done traditionally. So I get it. I get it. But now that I'm seeing where these dominoes are going, and now we're just going toward, okay, we're going to start playing just regular directional school non-conference games overseas. I'm like, dude, I hate this. Because more and more will come. And you put this in tandem with just games that are moving away from campuses. That to me is really like the heart of this. College football is great because of the environments. College football is great because of the rivalries and environments. And we're taking more games away from the actual on-campus environments, which is what is the total lifeblood, the soul, I would tell you, of the sport. We're taking more games away from that and throwing them into neutral environments. Because not only did we have this Michigan story about going to Germany within the last week, I also saw they're moving clean old-fashioned hate, Georgia Tech, to Atlanta. A big, shiny, glitzy stadium. Yes, obviously Atlanta is a very central location for those two schools. Play the game on campus. Do you guys remember the Georgia Tech game last year? How awesome that was? On campus, they played like 70 overtimes. The emotion of that game being played on campus. It's not as good is it the Mercedes-Benz Dome? I forget what they're even calling it in Atlanta these days. It's not as good in there. It's not as good in Frankfurt, Germany, to watch Michigan do anything against Western Michigan. Like, why? I say why. I know why. I know the answer. And I guess the real point here is we're just in such a dumb spot with this sport. And I generally do a pretty good job of, my adopted attitude here is basically, look, I love college football more than almost anything on this earth. It is in some ways a shell of itself. Not totally. That's probably a little bit harsh. But much of its soul has been stripped away, and people continue to try and grab at that. And I have two choices. I can lament that every day, be bitter and be sad about it, or I can accept the reality, still try to enjoy it as much as I can, and operate with that being the world in which I live. And for the most part, I choose the latter. For whatever reason, this has really set me off and like got me into the feelings of the former of that statement, which is just like, why do we keep having to strip away at the soul of this sport all for money? And a couple other points that I will make on this. One, the Big 12 kind of trendsetters here again, which, I think I have said over and over again, I think they do a good job at that. But hey, Big 12 Mexico, they're getting teams in back-to-back years in Ireland. I know they're not the first. They're far from the first conference to do that. But the Big 12 certainly seems, at least, I would say, for those of you that really hated on the Big 12 Mexico thing when it happened, and for right now, I haven't seen any confirmation that that's actually going to happen in 25 or 26 or whenever. It was just postponed. They weren't going to do it in 24. But if you hated it then, I think this is at least confirmation that the Big 12 had the right idea from like a business standpoint, if the Big 10 is going to follow suit with this. But I understand everybody who's saying, well, that sucks. Like, why would we do that? Play the games on campus. Yes, totally. I'm with you. I agree. I'm now fully on board the way that we see this. But I think it shows you that the Big 12 at least has its head in the right place when it comes to how to operate from a business standpoint here. But final point I will make here, and this again relates back to the Big 12. This is why, look, Cody Campbell out there telling everybody, use the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961. I always screw up the year. I think that's what it is, 61. Use the Sports Broadcasting Act to pool college football's TV rights together as a whole. Shop them that way because it will result in everybody getting way more money. That will ease the stress, ease some of the burden on everybody that's just trying to pay for everything to keep up right now in the sport. And more money for everybody is a good thing. More money for everybody is a very, very good thing. I understand rev share is a percentage of what you're making. So the more money you make, it will still go up. There will still be stresses, but it can help with support staff, coaches, all that other stuff. We're in too much of an environment where everybody feels the need to find new revenue streams and cash grabs and all this stuff. And the more and more we do this, the further and further we get away from what actually makes this thing great. And it really feels like it's starting to get out of control. And we still have nobody there to stop it. Like we're still very much in a place where there's kind of a power vacuum. It's really being filled right now by the Big Ten and the SEC, but they are certainly not looking out for the best interest of everybody. And nobody really is right now, because like I said, even my conference, the Big 12, has been guilty of doing this. Understandably so, once again, but everybody has been guilty of doing this. And this is, as I see Matthew say, college football needs a commissioner. This is absolutely one of those times where, yes, we need a commissioner to step in and be like, look, guys, I understand you want to be like the NFL. That's not college football's place. Look, if the NFL, again, I would say, if you want to zero in on me personally, I am a Chiefs fan. The Chiefs played in Germany recently. Is it much better to have a game in Arrowhead Stadium than it is in Germany? Hell yes, it is. It's an incredible environment. But the environments are less integral to the sport in the NFL, which is already a very, very corporate-y sort of, the NFL has a very corporate-y sort of feel to it. Now, I still love a good NFL football game. It's great football. It doesn't hit me the way college football does because it is more corporate-y. It has less of a soul to me than college football does. And we're pushing college football closer and closer toward that because they're looking at the NFL and being like, oh, well, look at this. Look at this. We need to get Johan in Germany wearing a Michigan Wolverines hat. We need to do this because that means he'll be buying hats and that's an extra revenue stream. Oh, dude, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And this is one of those random things that just hit me. It's not random, but some of these I'm able to just let go by. This one I really couldn't, especially because I also saw the Georgia Tech thing, which God, play that game on campus. That was so awesome last year. Anyway, and yes, I do. The closer we get to this Ireland game, it will be very cool. The week 0 part of it is what I care about. I do not care about it really being overseas. What I care about is the whole world, the whole college football world will be watching K-State and Iowa State in week 0. That's the important part. And I appreciate that about it. But would I much rather have this game be on campus, a pretty heated, fierce rivalry between K-State and Iowa State? Hell yes, obviously I would. And this has caused me to think more and more about that. Okay, we're going to talk about Matt Campbell. I've got another Big 12 coach to talk about as well later on in the show. But keep filling up the chat. Appreciate it as everybody files in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody who does that. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. 3 more will get me to 5,000 subs there, people. We are close to 5,000. I really, really do appreciate everybody who is doing that. And you will get, as a reward, more from the anonymous Big 12 player survey this week. Last one we just had, which Big 12 coach would you most like to play for? And I'm going to talk about that later on here in this show. You can submit a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box. If you do that, that's a great way to support the channel. And it guarantees that your question or comment makes it on the show here tonight, like my guy, Nick. Thank you, Nick, for being here. Appreciate you, my man. Nick says, I think having basketball games in other countries is different from football because you have 18 home games typically in basketball as opposed to 6 or 7 in football. The loss is not equal between the two. Go Pokes. Hey, that's a good point, Nick. I would say it is different because the percentage, if we're just doing the math, right? The percentage of home games that you get in a football season, 7 at most, sometimes 6. You lose one of those. Boy, this is where comms degree from a state school. You're like, what? That'd be a little bit under 20%. We'll say like 18% of the season as opposed to, if you have 18 home games, or even if we can just go Big 12, like last year playing 20 conference games, you got 10 Big 12 home games, you move one of those away, that's 10% of the season. If you wanted to look at it like including non-con games, it'd be more like 5% of the season, something like that. So it is a little bit better. It is a little bit better. I'll give you that. And I saw you followed. Basketball is already more of an international sport than American football. I think, Nick, you saying that, the business side of me would look at that and say, well, then that means there's more of an opportunity, honestly, almost for football, like more of an untapped audience there if they haven't been as exposed as much to the sport. But I get what you're saying. It's not as big of a loss. Yeah, that is one of the terrible things. I'm like looking at this like, man, K-State's got 6 home games this year. You got 6 home Saturdays. That's it. That's it, and you shipped one of those away, which would have been probably the best one against Iowa State in terms of atmosphere environment because of the rivalry. That is definitely a bummer. But I appreciate the point there, Nick. That is good too, and it underscores what it's like to be sending a football game away. That definitely does offer some good perspective. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Eddie says, I think that in Mexico you have 20 to 30 million fans for football. I think the Big 12 should play 1 to 2 games in Mexico to win more fans. There are a couple of YouTubers that have done stories on the sport in Mexico. Well, look, it's interesting, and I'm not saying it's a bad business move for the Big 12 to do that. I'm not even saying it's a bad business move for the Big 10 to do that. But to me, it's more of like a cost-benefit analysis here. Like, okay, you can potentially make more money, but what is, and this is the problem, nobody looking over for the overall greater good of anything. At what cost does that money coming in like actually cost you? I would compare it to the big, like conference realignment, right? Like taking and creating these monster conferences, breaking up the Pac-12. Yes, the Big 10 can be making more money in the short term because of that. The SEC can make more money in the short term because they added Texas and Oklahoma. But at what cost to the overall sport, and will that create diminishing returns down the line, which I firmly believe that it will if we continue to go down this road that we are with the consolidation of conferences and brand power up at the top. And I would say the same thing here. You may create some more fans, which could create some extra revenue, different revenue stream, but at what cost? I mean, you're really taking away what makes the sport unique, which is playing these games on campuses. You'd be training these fans in different countries to get used to a version of the sport that is not really what it is. I mean, what it is people on campuses going totally nuts. People in a stadium that's in the town that the school is in going totally nuts. Students, graduates of that school just losing their mind, going bonkers. It's not playing in like a sterile, neutral environment in a different country where the fans are not going to really be invested. They're just kind of checking it out. So you're not even really selling the actual product there when you take it on the road and try and do something like this. So I don't like it, but I understand where you're coming from, Eddie, and I don't disagree that there could be some real opportunity there for the Big 12 to pick up extra fans and therefore more money. But it does also, I mean, the other thing is it kind of turns into the private equity thing, right? Where it's hey, private equity for the Big 12 could be great, could really help out, but the Big 10 and the SEC are just going to do it too. And hey, you can start to develop more of an international audience. Well, then the Big 10 and the SEC are just going to do it too. I had someone in my DMs telling me about how some of what may happen with SEC realignment eventually could be tied to they want international brands, like a brand that actually already has some international pull to it. I'll leave it to you guys to try and figure out who that might be. But I'm just thinking, man, so that was another thing. Admittedly, that was another thing that came up where I'm just like, I'm getting hit with this again. Like, man, everything, does everything have to be like international? Do we have to be thinking about other countries before we just think about this sport and the health of this sport? Anyway, Starter 179, what's up? Starter 179 says, thanks for taking the time to travel to Frisco to cover our league. People like you keep our league moving forward. Thank you. Hey, that's very nice, Starter 179. I appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate you. Always enjoy hearing from you, whether it's on Twitter, on the show. It was my pleasure to go to Frisco, man. That was awesome. I enjoy those 2 days immensely. Love connecting with everybody as much as I do making the content. So appreciate that, Starter 179. That's very, very nice. Very, very nice of you. Okay. I guess I'll say rant over on that. But if you guys still have thoughts, you can continue with the super chats. Click the $ below the chat box. You can weigh in on Venmo, John-Gertz-4, if you are so inclined to do that. And I will read your comment next show if you do. All right. This is another admission I have today. The Big 12's most popular meme might have to die. The most popular stereotype and meme in the Big 12 might have to be buried and put away for good because, my friends, I don't think Matt Campbell is going anywhere. I don't think Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell is going anywhere. And those of you that catch the reference there, obviously for a long time, Matt Campbell, I mean, we're going on like, it's 2017 really the breakthrough year. So we'd be going on like 7 or 8 years of Matt Campbell being mentioned for virtually every job that comes open in college football. And so the meme very quickly became, new job opens up, say the Chicago Bears head coaching gig comes open, right? Chicago Bears head coach Matt Campbell. That's the tweets. Me, the Gambling Gauchos, there are plenty of us that are all over that. It's permeated its way beyond being just something casually known, and it's a pretty solidified Big 12 meme. But part of that joke was, okay, hey, does he have an agent? Does he not have an agent? Like Iowa State fans will tell you he doesn't have an agent. It sure seems like he has an agent. That is somebody leaking his name for a lot of these. That's typically how a lot of names get thrown out there, particularly for some of the jobs where it didn't seem like he was maybe all that serious of a candidate. So there's that layered into it. But it's also, hey, the media being kind of lazy and just thinking that, well, hey, this is a guy who's doing well at a school that's outside of the Big Ten or the SEC. Like, of course, he would want to be a candidate here. There's a lot going on with that. But, I mean, we're kind of getting to the point where it's like, what is the job? Like, what is the needle that could possibly be threaded to pull Matt Campbell away from Iowa State at this point? I guess I shouldn't bury the lead here. He officially signed an extension that I guess had been in the works since December. But Matt Campbell's extension runs through 2032. He's going to get paid $5 million a year. That's $1 million more than what he was making per year. He reportedly took a bit of a discount, didn't take all the money that he could have for himself because he wanted to add another $1 million to the rev share pool and get more money for his assistants. So you got to like that. Look, remember, Iowa State is the same place where Jamie Pollard has now come out on multiple occasions. I mean, at one point saying, hey, do we want to be Northern Iowa or do we want to keep being Iowa State and going to Sweet 16s and playing in conference championship games? And then there was a story about the big budget shortfall that's being expected at Iowa State with athletics because of all this. So Iowa State is understandably making it known like, hey, we're in kind of a tight spot here financially. So prudent of Matt Campbell to be like, well, I want to make sure that I can keep my assistants. And I would also like to make sure that I can pay players as much as possible to stay pretty competitive here. So I think that was a wise move on his part. And he doesn't seem to be like somebody who's itching to leave. And if you were to ever leave, if you really want a big payday, like you really, really want to get paid more so than the $5 million a year, you'll have to just take one of those big jobs when they come around. You can get a monster contract if you want it that way. Hell, the NFL was stiffing around at one point if you really wanted to go bark up that tree if it were all about money. Also, nice job sneaking in some good bonuses here. 750K and up for 9+ wins. It's basically like 250,000. I think it starts at 7 wins. 250K goes up 250K for each win. Got some nice bonuses. You rip off another 11-win season, Matt Campbell's going to add a lot of extra money to that. But this really is my point now. He hasn't taken any of these jobs, and we just got the story not that long ago from Brock Purdy, his former quarterback, who was on, I think it was Bussin' with the Boys, right? He was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, and he was telling a story about the USC job before Lincoln Riley was hired in 22. And Brock Purdy said, my senior year, I was leaving. I was out the door. I met with Campbell after my senior night, and he was crying pretty hard. You could tell there was something going on. He was going to leave, kind of thing. Met with him the next day, and I think USC offered him something legit before Lincoln Riley, and he was deciding on whether to go. And it says Purdy met with Campbell again the next day. This time Purdy brought his dad along with him. And Purdy says, Campbell's from Ohio. He's a Midwest guy. I actually brought my dad the next day. When I met with him and we talked, and I was like, dude, my dad was in my life. He coached me up. He was talking about out in LA. It's just a different world compared to the Midwest and what he's used to being in his kid's life and stuff. It would just be a different kind of environment, not knocking USC or anything. It's just different. So the insinuation there is really that Brock Purdy played a pretty big role in Matt Campbell turning down the USC job. Now, you can believe what you want. I'm sure there would be some that would say, hey, man, if they went and got Lincoln Riley, again, remember Lincoln Riley at that point, that's not the Lincoln Riley of now. His rep was a little bit higher. Would Matt Campbell have really been the first choice there? I'm not here to adjudicate all that or tell you what happened there. I'm just saying Brock Purdy seemed to indicate that pretty seriously in contention in some form or fashion and had a bit of a change of heart there. And if that's really his attitude, let me abstain that statement from the record and just say, if he did not take USC, then what is the job that I think there's a very short list of jobs, because you're talking about threading a needle. It would have to be a job that's equal to or better than USC. There are not very many of those. And that job of that caliber would then have to want Matt Campbell. And many times jobs of that caliber are going after some crazy out there high candidate, right? Matt Campbell's a Midwest dude, so I think you'd start looking at, all right, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, jobs like that. Well, one, they have to be open. Two, they've got to want him, and then he would have to actually take the job. So there's a lot of dominoes that would have to fall in place there. There's a very tight needle that would have to be threaded for him to actually leave and take one of those jobs. Like, this is clearly not a guy that's overly motivated by money. His salary right now is still 7th. And I think actually I had it at 7th originally, but I think Kenny Dillingham just moved in front of him too. So it might actually be 8th. So he moved up a couple of spots, but he's not being paid overwhelmingly like one of the absolute best in the Big 12, which he's definitely in the top 3 probably of Big 12 coaches. I'm just trying to think of what people's consensus would be right now, but generally see a lot of Kleiman, Leipold, Campbell. Gundy's a tough one to reconcile right now based on where he's at, and I don't mean to do this whole list over again, but you get the point. He's definitely better than 7th or 8th, which is what his pay would indicate there. So I just don't know that this dude's ever leaving. Notre Dame doesn't look like that's opening soon. You got a young, very, I would say, like, relative to the college football world, a very, very sexy name right now, a coach in Marcus Freeman, who's recruiting his absolute butt off and just played for a national championship. Ohio State just won the national championship. Ryan Day, I mean, I guess maybe not quite as secure as others who have won a national championship in the past just because of the Michigan thing. But then you got Penn State. I mean, James Franklin's doing pretty well. James Frank, couple years of losing the big one again. Maybe they would run him off. But Michigan's about the only one there where you'd be kind of like, maybe I could see that in the next year or two. And last time Michigan was open, Matt Campbell's name was definitely mentioned, but we don't really have any indication how interested he would have been. It seemed like Michigan just went straight for the Sharon Moore thing. That seemed like it was basically predetermined before the opening even happened. So, yeah, I don't, as much as this has been a joke, as much as this has been a meme, this is just another one of those reminders that it feels like he's gonna, in all likelihood, be a lifer here, or at least it will be a while before he were to leave. Like if you were gonna tell me, hey, college football turns into a super league type of thing in 2030, Big 12 schools don't make the cut, or some of the Big 12 schools don't make the cut, and Iowa State is one of them, and then he's going to take a job in the NFL, or he's going to take a job with somebody that makes the Super League. Okay, obviously the dynamics could really, really change then, but we've done this meme and he's had this kind of reputation of like, oh, maybe he will, maybe he will, maybe he will. We probably just need to like chill on the seriously thinking that. That doesn't mean we can't do the meme, because look, I love the internet. I love memes. I'll probably still do the meme. And I don't mean to speak 100% for the Gambling Gauchos. A must follow on Twitter, by the way, if you are a Big 12 fan. I'm sure they will probably continue with their Photoshops, and I would highly encourage them to, because it's very entertaining. But at this point, it's just a meme. It's not anything based in reality. Put it that way. Ron, I'm glad that Ron pops up here to remind us Kirby Smart making $13 million. $13 million. Yeah, not quite that. Not quite that. Just a little more than a third of what Kirby Smart is making, if that helps put it in perspective. Okay, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. You can drop me a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box. Appreciate everybody who does that. Make sure you subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com. The push for 5,000 subs. I am now 2 away. Saw we gained another one since the show started. 2 away, people. 2 away from 5,000 subs. ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. Appreciate all of you who have subscribed. You're going to get the rest of the Big 12 Anonymous Player Survey this week. Let's say hello to my guy, Alan. What's up, Alan? Thank you, Alan, for your support of the channel, as always. Alan says, John, just watched inside the new look David Booth Stadium with KU running team drills and new uniforms. Looked like an elite program, not the old KU football program. Gave me goosebumps. Rock Chalk Jayhawk Alan. Alan, you should be excited about it. Kansas fans should be excited about it. I saw Mark Mangino got inducted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame this weekend, which shout out to Mangino. I know, I guess I'm supposed to not like him. I feel like a lot of K-State fans that I talked to still have like some anger or resentment. I don't know. He was a part of some great K-State teams. And yes, I guess if the real anger is that he was a part of the Exodus in 98 before the Big 12 championship game and that loss, I don't know, man. I don't really hold that against him that much. And I think he was a really good coach. And he was always great to me when I interviewed him back on the old radio show. Anyway, I saw he had some really positive things to say about Travis Goff. He basically said, to paraphrase him, like, dude, if Travis Goff were there 20 years ago when I was at Kansas, thing would have been totally humming. And I think Travis Goff is a very good AD. I have been very open about that. Much as I would love, as the K-State fan in me, would love Kansas to still have Jeff Long as AD. They don't. They've got a much better AD who made the football stadium happen. It looks very nice. It's much better than what was there before, and it should be celebrated by Kansas fans. And you'll get a chance to celebrate it. You know, like we keep talking about K-State, Iowa State in 20 days. You'll get a chance to celebrate that in 20 days too with Kansas Fresno. It's going to be awesome. Big 12 gets 2 games on week 0. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Alan, happy for you, my friend. And I hope you get a chance to get out there quite a bit this year to watch your Hawks, my friend. Okay. All right. Here's one for you. I like this one. There's another thing that happened this week. If you're a Big 12 fan, I can tell you I know your worst Big 12 take. And I'm going to set you straight on why you should change that. Okay? That's what I'm here to do today. Big 12 fans, I know your worst take. It's a bad one. Let's change it. Okay? So I mentioned just a second ago, I do my survey at Big 12 Media Days, Anonymous Player Survey. This year I talked to 30 players. Not all of them answered everything. Some of them declined to answer some of these questions, one of which is the one I'm about to talk to you about. Seem to be the most sensitive for players. And that question was, which Big 12 coach would you most like to play for that isn't your own? I think there are some that, even though they're granted anonymity, they just don't even want to go there. They don't want to think about it. That's not, and I get it in a day and age where, I mean, one, you're having to just trust the guy who's saying that this is anonymous. And two, the transfer portal is such a thing that permeates every aspect of the sport. I can see why you'd want to just be like, dude, I don't even want to mess with that. Let's just not go there. But I did get about 20 to answer. And the coach that Big 12 players said they would most like to play for outside of their own. Anybody have any guesses? Chad, have any guesses? That coach was Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. He got 6 votes. Nobody else had more than 2. The only other coaches to get multiple votes were Dave Aranda and Kyle Whittingham. They each got a couple. But Deion won with 6 votes. It was triple any other coach. And it's interesting to me that that was the result based on what I saw last year. Okay, in a vacuum, obviously, yeah, he's a big star. He's a guy that soaks up a ton of attention. He's on TV everywhere. You can see why kids would be like, oh yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But last year, I asked players 2 things. One, I asked them, which Big 12 coach would you want to play for other than your own, without mentioning anybody specifically in the question? Gus Malzahn won. No more Gus Malzahn here in the league, but he had 5 votes. Now, admittedly, a lot of that I think was just players wanting to be back home in Florida. I think that's part of why that skewed that way. But Deion didn't even come up when I just asked players like, hey, who do you want to go play for? Last year, not a single player said Deion. When I asked the direct question last year, would you like to play for Coach Prime? Because that was such a hot topic issue at the time. I did directly ask one of the questions of that. 7 said no, 4 said not sure, only 4 said yes. Okay, so there was not a lot of Deion love last year, either when I'm just asking, who do you want to go play for, or specifically, do you want to play for him? Here's some of the quotes I got last year. Somebody said, nah, I wouldn't. He brings too much attention to the non-football stuff, and I want to just get straight to business. Someone else said, nope, I'm good on that. I've heard what it's like over there. I'm good on that. Another quote I got was, no, absolutely not. No offense, but no. So there were some pretty strong, definitive no's in there. Okay. So what changed? What changed? I think there are a couple things that help here. I think, one, being able to see tangible results. This was not a team that didn't even make a bowl game, right? From 2 seasons ago. This was a team that won 9 games and they were in the conference title race. And many Big 12 players got a chance to see Colorado up close and in person. And so it's, hey, like I see more of a proof of concept. It's happening in my conference. It's happening perhaps against me. So I now know that there's more to this than just flash. There's some substance there. They prove some substance. And regardless of what you think about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and how they obtain those players, they obtained the players. And there was more happening than just that. The defense got better. The offensive line got better. They did some things that looked like actual program building last year. So being able to see that as a player, that probably makes you be like, okay, well, I like some of the flash, but now I know that there's substance to back that up too. Also, I would just say not as polarizing this year as he was last year and the year before. The further we get away from the complete novelty of it, the less it's like a first take sort of talking point. I'm not saying he doesn't still make first take. You're still going to see that there's some, but it's not quite the same way that it was, not as fierce as it was. And that probably means that you're going to get players who would just say, based off of like seeing all the hype and craziness and stuff, they just be like, I don't want to mess with that. There's a little bit less of that now. So it makes you think about it a little bit more. But also, I just think having him in the conference, to be around him and see what he's actually all about, really helps here. And that's a part of the point that I want to make. Because I think Deion gets a lot of really blind hate based on who people think he is. Now, I don't think he is perfect. I will name you a thing or two here in the rest of this segment that I think are things that I don't love. But in general, I think he's a pretty good dude, and he's a better dude than what the general reputation is of your average Joe casual college football fan. Now, there are also a lot of Joe Casual college football fans who love him just because he is Deion. But I think Big 12 fans specifically, let's zero in on that, because I feel like nationally he's very popular. I feel like in the Big 12 he is not very popular. And I think people think he is way too cocky, has a bad attitude. His players have bad attitudes. It's cotton candy. It's all just flash, glitz, and glamour. It's not actually any substance. And I think a lot of that is pretty damn unfair. And I was thinking about this a lot as I was listening to, within the last week, his press conference about his bladder cancer. I think everybody knows that now, but it's been revealed that he not only has the foot issues that he's been dealing with, but he had bladder cancer and had to get his bladder removed. And there are a lot of things. It sounds awful, everything he's having to deal with that. But just listening to the way listening and then looking back and taking apart how he handled all this whole situation, I think deserves analyzing it and giving him some credit, and how it kind of bucks the trend of what people think of him is. Okay. So for one, I thought it was very thoughtful of him and enjoyed the fact that he made it a teachable moment about, hey guys, like, go get checked. I know men, and he said particularly black men, don't really want to go to the doctor all that often, but go to the doctor and get your routine checkup so that stuff like this won't happen to you. I like him using his platform for good as far as that goes. And I know I can just hear people saying, well, yeah, he wants attention. This me thing. Has a big press conference with the doctors and all that to announce what he had here. But that is completely unfair, because he was at Big 12 Media Days. There had been all these rumors about his health. He gets asked about it, and he just shrugged it off. Didn't want to talk about it at all. Never would there be more media coverage than Big 12 Media Days. A lot of the national folks are there. Pete Thamel, Ross Dellinger, all the national outlets are there. Literally the entire media sphere of the conference is there, and he punted on talking about it. He also didn't even tell his two sons, two of the three sons, but the two that are playing in the NFL right now, he didn't tell Shiloh or Shador about what was going on, because he didn't want to bother them when they're fighting for their lives trying to make a roster. I think that's pretty commendable, and the type of thing that people wouldn't really give him a lot of respect or credit for. And I think this kind of whenever I listen to his press conferences, okay, there are two thoughts, and this is where I'll point out something that I don't love. Thought number one is, when you do cut off reporters, columnists who are critical of you and you don't like, that's not a great thing. And it creates an environment where a lot of the press conference questions are very much softballs. And yeah, he's cultivated that media environment. But a lot of what he says and a lot of how he acts, he is right. When I hear him say a lot, he will say, I'm not trying to bring anybody down. I don't go out there throwing hate around. A lot of what comes back to me, I'm about good vibes. I want to lift people up. And if you hear him talk about Big 12 coaches, this is a guy that just waltzed into the conference one day. He didn't have to be friendly to a lot of these coaches. If he is who I think people vilify him out to be, why would he be deferential and complimentary of Big 12 coaches? He is every single time I hear him talk about them. He's best friends with Joey McGuire. He's pretty respectful. He does not try to bring people down. I think his confidence and swagger definitely turns people off, and people are not really used to it. You're just not used to people being that upfront about how confident they are in their abilities. And he certainly has that. And a lot of that's been earned over the course of his life. But I also think he's pretty thoughtful. I think he's generally a good dude, and he doesn't waste a lot of time trying to tear other people down. And I think he gets vilified way too much. And I think most of it comes from within the Big 12. Yeah, some of it's going to come nationally, but I think there's more national love for Deion for sure than there is in the Big 12. I can tell even just how the views go when I do content on Colorado or Deion. The views don't really come. I don't get views from this channel, but nationally, if somebody nationally puts out a view, it happens because there's more of a national infatuation and love for him. People in the Big 12 don't seem to like him. I think, as Matthew says, he does undoubtedly help the Big 12, which I haven't even mentioned here, how much he completely drives up the TV numbers and is a very helpful entity to the conference. I don't think he's a bad dude. which people seem to think he's a bad dude. You can disagree with some of how he's operated. If you don't like him cutting off journalists, if you don't like the comments directly to players, like about, Louis luggage and you guys can hit the road if you want, you don't have to agree with everything about his style, but I don't think he's a bad dude at all. And I couldn't help but really reflect on that. I also, one last thing on this, I think the Deion fans, they do Deion a disservice in his likability, because the fans, that's really what you guys hate. Like, it was a bunch of fans who came. I hated that. A bunch of casual fans who came thundering in, like not having any idea or respect about the Big 12 or college football and how it generally works, and expecting after that TCU win 2 years ago, like they're going to win the national championship, and not understanding, like, no, hey, like that's not how program building works, guys. Like, you can't, yes, that was very annoying. Still is, but don't hold that against Deion. Don't hold that against Deion. I wouldn't anyway. So there's my plea to you. Starter 179. What's up, Starter 179? Checking in again. Starter 179 says, I was in Lubbock for the Colorado-Texas Tech game last year, and it was the most electric environment I've ever seen. Deion was a huge part of it. I love him in the Big 12. Great stuff, Starter 179. I appreciate your perspective. That sounded like an awesome game. And again, probably even cooler for Texas Tech, because it's like Joey and Deion both have, they seem to have a pretty special relationship between the two, which I think is awesome. Not two guys that I would have before that really associated with each other or thought like, oh yeah, man, they must be best buds, but they totally are. Now, maybe I should have Joey McGuire. Actually, the more I think about it, it's like, I can't see that guy not being friends with anybody. He is about the most affable guy that could just connect socially with anybody. But I really, really like that. So I'm sure it was an incredible environment for that game. Starter 179, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being here. And I do know that Joey coached his son in high school. I definitely do. I know that they go back a ways, right? They go back a ways. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com. That is ofbnews.com. We are, let's see, one sub away from 5,000. ofbnews.com to get subscribed to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. One sub away from 5,000. Appreciate all of you guys. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo as well. If you want to hit me up there, I'll get to your question or comment to kick off the next show. One last topic here. This maybe is a bit of a cheap shot. Maybe a bit of a cheap shot at the Big Ten. You guys know look, there are plenty of legitimate things to attack the Big Ten for. This is going to be another legitimate thing to attack the Big Ten for. It's piling on. Let's say instead of a cheap shot, this may be piling on a little bit here, okay? But we're going to do it anyway. A random college football fan, just a totally random dude, totally yelled checkmate at the entire Big Ten. Had them completely checkmated to where they can't even defend themselves from Joe C. Mailbag Reader right now. And, I appreciate that. Thank you, Joe C. Mailbag Reader. You all know the story. I don't need to spend a ton of time relitigating everything that happened at Big Ten Media Days, because I've done it about 7 times on this show. You guys get it. They all had this very cultivated emphasis on the cult, this very cultivated message about the 4-4-2-2 model for the college football playoff, and why the SEC should go to 9 conference games, and SEC scheduling is weak and the Big Ten is great, and 6-3 Big Ten teams should be a shoo-in for the playoff, and all of that. They were very much on their high horse, which was widely crushed, as it should have been, and not just from the Paul Feinbaums of the world, who did crush it as he should have, but Pat Forty, Stuart Mandel, fans. I mean, nobody seemed to really take very well to that. And the Big Ten just decided to roll on basically on its high horse. I'm reading then Stuart Mandel's mailbag this past week from The Athletic, and it was Matthew C. So it's Matthew C. Mailbag Reader that actually cornered the Big Ten here. And I love this. It was a very simple question, but he just asked, if the Big Ten is so harmed by playing 9 conference games, why don't they go to 8 conference games? That is, if they truly care about doing what is best for their teams and not making Fox more Money. Matthew C., my guy, you just completely checkmated them. I would love to have given Matthew the mic at Big Ten Media Days at Tony Petitti's press conference. Get him that mic and have him ask that question that exact same way and see what Tony Petitti would have done, because that is just, I mean, that's it. Like, that's the issue. If it's all about here justice for Big Ten schools and giving them as much of a shot to make the playoff as anybody else, then yeah, you've got the power to just drop to 8 games. You make fun of the SEC schedules. Indiana is picking up Kennesaw State for Virginia because they say we want an SEC schedule. Okay, well, there you go. One of your teams is already trying to operate like that. Why not just drop a conference game, pick up a non-con? Now, if you want a nice spin zone here to really dig at the Big Ten, I would say, well, for about 2/3 of the conference, that would actually make their schedule tougher if they added, say, an FCS team instead of whatever Big Ten team would be dropped from their schedule, because 2/3 of that conference is not very good. But I don't think that's really the issue here. The issue is Fox, man. The issue is Fox. Mandel wrote this and brought this up. Scheduling seems like a secondary concern for Petitti. Even when a reporter asked him, quote, is it a must in your mind that the power conferences must play the same number of conference games? He said, quote, it's not a must. Each league will decide what they think the best conference schedule is for them before launching into a pitch for, quote, a system with allocated spots. So, yeah, Tony Petitti just pushed it right to, hey, we got to get these guaranteed spots so that we can have playing games, so that Fox, who feels cut out of the playoff, can get playoff-esque TV inventory so that Fox can make more money. Follow the money. Always follow the money. That's where we're at. And Tony Petitti is the most like overly transparent, like overtly transparent puppet of TV that really we have seen. It is mind-numbingly obvious after that whole charade at Big Ten Media Days. And even Matt C., mailbag reader, can point it out and just get them completely cornered, man. Look, here's the deal. If you want to go to 8 games, yes, you could say, well, John, look, if the Big Ten went to 8 games, they would lose some money themselves because Fox would not want to pay as much. If you're going to replace a game against Minnesota or Nebraska or Northwestern with a directional school, you're going to get a little bit less money. Like, well, okay. First of all, the Big Ten makes more money from its TV deal than the SEC already. And second of all, the SEC is taking less money by not going to 9 conference games. They know they would make more money. They are not doing every single thing for the sake of making more money because they're not going to the 9th conference game just to make more money. They care more about the competitive aspect of it and how many teams they can get in the playoff. So for once, I guess there is one little spot here where it's not really altruistic, but it's not money completely driving everything. Whereas for the Big Ten, it is. It is. So Big Ten, if you want to take a little bit of a financial hit, still probably be ahead of the SEC in terms of your total TV payout. You could have the same competitive path as they would. And in fact, then if you go equal to the SEC on games with 8, I mean, you'd have an easier path. Your conference is easier. It's more top heavy. The odds are you would have an easier schedule every single year than whatever, name your SEC counterpart. You'd be in a much better spot if what you're concerned about is losing less games, which seems to be the definite idea there. Okay. But you know that they won't do it. You know that they won't do it because they want the playing games, which is what Fox wants. So it's very obvious what's driving Tony Petitti here. And that part, I think everybody has really figured out. The weird part is it's like Petitti has this all orchestrated where he has his puppeteer, his puppets, right? So Petitti is both puppet and puppeteer. He's pulling all the strings on all these coaches, like James Franklin. Go up there and say this. Kurt Signetti, go and say the SEC schedules thing. What is the incentive for those coaches? Like, why do the coaches care about Fox getting these play-in games and therefore Fox getting more money? I don't understand why they're on board with that idea. Hell, the SEC coaches were smart enough to say, we don't want 4-4-2-2 because we don't want those playing games because that's an extra game of wear and tear on our players' bodies. at a high level. And if we're now having to go through an expanded playoff, which again is something the Big Ten has pushed for and wants even more expansion on, creating more games and a longer season and a longer path, the coaches are saying, look, there's only so much of this we can take. That's not good for us if we do that. But yet the Big Ten coaches are just like completely complicit in this. The Big Ten coaches are like, yeah, fine, let's go. Let's grease the skids for Fox, man. Let's go make Fox some more money, dude. Let's go make sure Fox can pay Matt Groening more money to make The Simpsons for a 38th straight year. Let's do it. I'm on board with that. My name is Lincoln Riley, and I endorse this message. I don't really get it, man. I don't really get it. It feels like a hostage video or something, man. Like Lincoln, blink twice if Tony's got the pistol pointed at your back. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening there, but it was ridiculous. And we'll see where it all goes from here. But I at least love that it's just like everybody is latching onto this, man. It is not just me. It is not just Paul Feinbaum. Red Wine, I believe Nebraska fan there. I see you in the chat saying Big Ten hate is noted. Just note it for everybody. If you're going to be Ryan from The Office, the little GIF where he just jots it down in his notebook. Just write it down for everybody. It's not a John Kurtz take. This is a universal college football take. Everybody's looking at it right now. Very ubiquitous within the college sports space. Okay. That's going to wrap it up for me. Did I miss a super chat? I don't think I did. Yeah, because I got started 179. Okay. Got them all in. Thank you guys for being here. Please like the video on your way out. Would appreciate that. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. Appreciate everybody who does that. Anything else I need to remind you guys of? I may or may not be doing a show on Wednesday. We will see. It depends on how some things work out. I have another obligation I may need to attend to there. So I'll see what I can do this week. Okay. But know that I will make every effort and attempt to be with you guys for the live show. So Nick, perfect way to end it. Perfect way to end it. Just like I started it. That is where I'm at on this as well. Appreciate all of you. Take care. Enjoy your week, and I will see you all soon.